What is up, everyone? Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of The Clack Box. We are so glad that you are here joining us. If you were curious of the intro music, that is my boy Joey Vanderveer. And the Joey Vanderveer Band, he did a 6-song EP for summer camp songs. So that is what you are listening to. And now I got to pay him royalties now that I said his name. So this morning, I have a special guest. I want to give you a heads up later on. I will be recording for next week a follow-up on the intro talking about forgiveness. So if you're curious about that, we had a couple of comments and questions. So I do want to follow up on that. I'm excited and interested to see what comes out of that. But this morning, I am joined with one of my really, really good friends, Nathanael. He is here most Friday mornings. We get together at Trinity Street in Decatur Coffee and have coffee and talk. We talk about life, talk about other things. But over the last year or so, he has been on quite an interesting personal journey for what God has for him. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about that. So if you'd welcome Nathanael.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad that you're here.
Looking forward to this.
I can really hear the lawnmower outside. Yeah. Cutting the grass outside of church.
That's just real.
It is real.
It's the real.
It's the rawness and the production quality of it. I should start a Patreon so we can get more money besides my stipend of my own money. So yeah, we've been friends for about 2 years.
Yeah. We've been having coffee. It's been 2 years of like meeting kind of at least every month or two, 2 or 3 times a month, depending on our schedule.
We don't want to go back and look at how much money we spent on coffee.
A lot of money. a lot of money. The quality of my coffee, I think, has gotten less as we meet more. I'm like, I'll just take a small
water.
Yeah, take the littlest you have, just a hint of coffee.
We're in the little bitty shot, the little like coffee shot espresso cups now, but it's like a whole cup. Yeah. So yeah, we've talked about a lot of stuff, but tell us a little bit about you. Mm-hmm. And I mean, your Instagram, you and your wife's Instagram handles tell the story of your life.
Yeah, we got married really young. My wife's name is Amber. We got married. I just turned 20. I was going into my junior year of college, and so we've been married coming up on 10 years now.
That's about what we were.
Yeah. And it's
the 20-year mark. Sorry, not
the 20. Yeah. And I feel like as a 19-year-old, you're like, I want to marry this girl, and the other people are like, that's insane. Like, you don't know anything. I didn't know anything, but I knew I wanted to marry her, and
as long as you knew that one thing.
Yeah, and God really opened the doors to allow that to happen, being very poor college kids. We met at Biola University. We're from California.
Weirdos.
Yeah. We got to Texas as quick as we could, I suppose is what they say.
So your Instagram handles are, like, hers is mom of 2 boys and 2 girls, and yours is
father of 4.
Father of 4.
Yeah, with a 4. With hour. Which doesn't make any sense, I suppose.
It's creative, though.
Thank you.
I like it. So you guys have wanted to serve, and especially you have wanted to serve in the student ministry for a long time. But the first year and a half conversation was like me telling you no. Yeah.
It was it was kind of like not yet type of thing.
I don't want your help.
Yeah. He had too many good other leaders that he didn't need me.
I can't say that's not true because
it's true.
It is kind of.
It was. So we served at Grace for a while doing other things, and I guess this semester it was kind of like, all right, now it's time. The kids we have 4 kids, so we have kind of a little class going for them, which is really awesome. And then I'm really excited to be on this team and to be a part of that, what's going on in Grace students.
Yeah, and you are the what age group? What boys?
Senior boy.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to say that. I was like, that's not right, but I should know. It's early. Senior boys, small group leader. But you also help. We started with you helping. We kind of wrote and team taught together the Wonder series, which was our series about apologetics.
Yeah.
And then now you're kind of teaching a class on Sunday mornings for high school based around some of that and some other apologetics stuff.
Yeah.
Is Jesus real? Is the Bible real? And so far I've gotten a lot of great feedback. We know it's awesome, and so we're excited about that. But
It's good to hear.
you're a physical therapist
Yes.
at a local hospital.
Yep.
I don't want to say names unless they're going to sponsor.
I do work at a local hospital. Yes.
There's one, so that narrows it down. And you're I don't know if you're a good physical therapist or not.
I don't either, to be honest.
I don't know how that works.
I work on the hospital side, so a lot of people think PT and they think like sports or
PT is short for physical therapy.
Yes, sorry.
No.
It's the lingo.
I've got to. I was told I need to be better explaining terms.
Sorry, yeah. I am a physical therapist in the hospital setting. So a lot of people think sports and whatnot, but I'm in the hospital where I treat sick people, open heart surgery patients, strokes. I have one patient that I see on the outpatient that's a spinal cord injury. So that's the stuff that I like, and that's the kind of the patient population that I kind of focus on.
Now, I know this kind of started a while ago. There was like little seeds of this probably since college, a little bit. But in the last 13 months, 14 months, some of our conversations on Friday mornings has turned to maybe a different calling.
Yes.
What is that different calling?
Yes. So the different calling would be missions, and going into the mission field. That journey, I guess, started back in like high school. I read Brother Andrew's book God Smuggler.
That's a great name for a book.
I know, right? It's about this guy Andrew, who actually he started Open Doors Ministries years and years ago. But he wrote this book, his autobiography, and it basically, he would go and smuggle Bibles into Soviet Russia and the communist countries. And so I read his book, and it kind of opened my eyes to the persecuted church. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's what I want to do. And God kind of planted that seed back in like late high school. And then I kind of went to college, did my doctorate work, did family, kids, and all that. And it was kind of on the back burner until about 14 months ago in one of these, kind of one of our coffee sessions over time. I'm like, now's the time. Like God kind of like just, I can't remember exactly when, but it was like God saying, now's the time to start. I've planted this seed in you. Now it's time to start growing. And I'll never forget, we were having breakfast, which was a different thing. Change for us. We were having some food. And we were splurging a little bit, I think.
Got that paycheck.
Yeah, woo! I want some eggs. And you said something that I wrote down. It was pretty profound, and I don't even know if you remember this. But you
be who you is.
You be you. No, it was this idea of it's not our job to push the dominoes. It is our job to set them up, and it is God's job to push. And so this idea of like preparing for this vision that I got to put in my heart, so that when God says go, things are set up and I can go. And so I began kind of putting up the dominoes, I guess, so to speak.
Like I said that, and it sounds great now and very profound, but let's do you think that people, it's like, okay, God, there's a vision. Like you've given me something in my heart that tells me to go for that. Mm-hmm. And then do you think people then go, okay, so I'll go when you tell me to go, but I'm not going to search out how to get it set up. So that they're almost like, God, I'll do it if you tell me, but you're going to have to do miracle upon miracle upon miracle to make it happen. Yeah. And then we go, I don't understand why it's not happening.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where that thought came from, that like you have to start doing things to see if you can't like go put the fleece out.
Yeah.
Don't go.
Exactly. Yeah.
You put the fleece out, God, and make it dewy or not or whatever.
He's not going to buy my plane ticket. If the idea is missions, he's not going to buy the plane ticket, put me on the plane, and then all of a sudden I'm like, why am I in China?
Yeah, a tribe of Africa is not going to show up at your door.
Yeah, exactly. We need to be evangelized.
Would be amazing.
Yeah, this is really easy. I
just need to leave my PJs. When I think a little bit too, that like, I'm not going to belittle my advice that you felt like was profound.
Yeah.
But like for me, when you start bringing up missions, I've never really like I think it is a calling.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. I've never really had I love missions, go, people go.
Yeah.
I've never felt the drive to go.
Yeah.
And so even and I'm just being transparent, in your journey, I was kind of like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. People are called to different things. And I think the idea of missions, I think we should clarify international missions,
yeah,
or cross-cultural missions, because our backyard is our mission field type of thing,
right?
Which is super church cliche,
What would Jesus do? My backyard is my mission field. Yeah,
I am second.
Have you seen they've changed that? Total side note. It's called the white chair sessions now.
Yeah. I didn't know those are.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It's really interesting.
Huh.
A total side note, right? Yeah, right.
Yep.
But and I think that's biblical, right? Judea,
Yeah.
Samaria, and othermost parts, and so where Jesus says that's our mission field, and some people have specific, wheelhouses for that, and their calling and what's comfortable or life settings and stuff. So we were at Sweetwater Cafe on the square when we had this conversation.
Yeah,
I remember getting. That doesn't exist anymore. They closed down.
No.
We closed that place down.
Yeah.
Too much Jesus. But then, so what were the dominoes? Like you said, I needed to set up some things.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was what it actually looks like. Where is it?
Yeah.
It was conversations with my wife. Right. So let's go. I want to go down all those paths.
Okay.
Because I think they're interesting, because God did a lot in all of those.
Yes.
Let's talk about what was the first thing that you did. Like if there was a domino, where did you start? Besides God, where do I start?
Yeah, I mean, so I knew persecuted church, and I knew I wanted to do physical therapy, because I feel like if I have a skill set, I should use that to help people's physical needs as well. So I'm like, okay, that's super broad, because a lot of people need PT all over the world, physical therapy, and the persecuted church is a massive part of the world. I mean, there's a lot of persecuted areas. There's the Middle East, there's parts of Asia, there's parts of Africa. I mean, there's persecuted is big. So the first thing I did, I was talking to one of Amber's cousins, really smart dude, and he said, okay, you like neuro, right? So stroke, spinal cord, that's kind of where I treat a lot. And you like the persecuted church. Those are the two kind of groups. So do a cross-reference search. Just search, literally cross-reference on Google. And so I did that. I cross-referenced persecuted church, and I crossed I did stroke prevalence, because neuro is not super broad. So strokes, and there was this overlap of Central Asia. And so that was kind of the first thing. I'm like, okay, don't know anything about Central Asia. I mean, no clue. It's not even on my radar as far as geographical, like Central Asia. I don't know where that is.
It's in the center of Asia?
It is, yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah. So that was the first, I guess, domino. It was like, okay, narrow down the scope a little bit to a general location. So I looked up, I got Central Asia. I'm like, okay, that's specific. And then so then I let's see, I knew Central Asia, and then I'm like, okay, what does physical therapy look like in Central Asia? Again, no idea. I don't know anything about Central Asia. So I Googled physical therapy in Central Asia, which Google has been a very good help through this whole process, I guess.
Google actually does help Jesus.
Yes.
And I just got kicked off of Google Play Music.
Yeah, so I Googled physical therapy in Central Asia, and one of the top things that came up was a job opening for a mission organization. And so I click on it, and it said there's this list of jobs for a Central Asia part of this mission organization. And the jobs were along the lines of businessman, preacher, evangelist, mission, like typical you would think for a mission organization. The only medical one was physical therapist. No nurse, no doctor, no PA, more, I guess, common, physical therapist. And then it moved on to teacher. And so I'm looking at this okay, I just Googled this. What does it look like? And there's these jobs for this mission group that they need a PT in this part of the world that I just cross-referenced. And so that was another step where I'm like, okay, God, I'll jump down this rabbit hole that you seem to be digging, or with the sovereignty of God, I suppose it's already there. I don't know.
And there's that chess piece.
And so I jumped down that road and I called them. And that was almost exactly a year ago that I called them and said, hey, I'm a physical therapist. Like, what can you tell me about this? Like, whatever this is. And so I talked to their director for the U.S. And he said, and this is actually Halloween last year. He's like, hey, you know what? You need to talk to my brother. I had mentioned Biola University, and he's like, my brother went to Biola.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, okay, you guys are based out of Virginia. Your brother is currently a full-time missionary in Cyprus, and is now the director for Central Asia and that whole kind of part of the world. And he's like, you need to talk to my brother. He went to Biola. I'm like, okay.
And that's in California.
That's in California. Yes, Biola's in California. And then he said his wife also went to Biola. Amber also went to Biola. And they have 4 kids. And I at the time I had 3. One was brewing in the womb, but I now have 4 kids. And so he's telling me all these like weird parallels, and not that like he's like a doppelganger of mine or anything like that, or like me in the future. But it was a weird like God just being like, you're on the right track. It was almost like a I don't know, like a little nugget of like affirmation, like
Yeah.
Well,
And I think when you're taking on something so large, right? Mm-hmm. Like I know nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know an organization over there.
Yeah.
Like there's not like a you know a website. Send me to Central Asia for missionary work as a physical therapist.
Yeah.
Then you know I think that's like an app of connection, like a Tinder for that.
Swipe right for yes.
But I think that you need those nuggets.
Yeah.
Right, because I remember some of our conversations where this is a daunting task. I don't know where to start. And then it did seem like God just kind of opened these nuggets of floodgates.
Yeah.
Of just like, bam, this. Oh, this is weird. This is weird. This is weird. This is weird. And I know you journaled through that.
Yeah.
Like, to be able to, like, you could list.
Yeah.
And I feel like every Friday there was this. Oh, you're not going to believe this happened. Oh, you're not going to believe this. It kind of got annoying, actually. Not really. Yay for you and your relationship with God. But then, so you have this, you start to build relationships through that, and you start to kind of have a scenario, and you're getting super excited.
Yes.
About all of these things that God is doing. Yeah. Okay, so give me like 2 more of just these random nuggets of what you felt like were affirmation God was doing.
Yeah. Let's see. One of them, so I love apologetics, and I study with this, not with this guy, I don't know him personally, but I study William Lane Craig. He's a professor at Biola. Debates atheists and has 2 PhDs, super smart dude, but pretty specific when it comes to apologetics. I mean, it's a small world, but first of all, not a lot of people study apologetics, and he's one of several. And so I mentioned this to this missionary that is in Cyprus, and I'm like, yeah, I love studying William Lane Craig. I'm starting this series with the youth. Do you like, what do you think of him? And he's like, oh, I know him. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I've translated for some of his stuff. He's had dinner with me. He we have a relationship where like he speaks in the country I was in. He's spoken there, and like we have this relationship. So I'm like, okay, that's so crazy. That's crazy that you like know this guy that I've been studying for years. That is so specific. I'm like, okay, that's a little nugget of affirmation, I suppose you can call it.
So then you have these things that are kind of trickling, but they're not like, I think it's weird. Like sometimes we want the full 2x4 to the face. And this isn't full 2x4.
No.
Now there's a lot of these little like 1x1s, like it's toothpicks, right?
Yeah.
So you're starting to get excited.
Yeah.
But then there's another angle to this.
Yeah.
Which is family.
Yeah. Hey, honey, we're moving. That's not something you want to say to a pregnant woman. 8 months pregnant. Hey, congrats on the baby. Also, we're gonna move to a third world country or a developing country. You know. So.
But we had, and I don't want to like. I'm gonna push you on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though there's a microphone here, like that was not the easiest of paths on this, and not because of Amber. Like I want to be clear, not because of Amber, but because of the topic, what it looks like, and what it could mean, even though you're still figuring out what does it mean.
Yeah.
And so what was one of the biggest lessons? I mean, I know, but our audience doesn't know. What was one of the biggest things that we talked about for that some of us sometimes miss on our journey with a family?
Yeah. There was an aspect of like, I'm going to overwhelm you with like this vision.
Oh yeah.
And so it was like, it's all I would talk about. It was like what I was excited about. It was on my heart and on my mind, which is good to a point. But it put everything else secondary. It made my wife second. It made my kids second. At least it had that perception from her. Like, if this is all you're talking about, like, what about like us, our family, our marriage, type of thing. So there was that aspect. And then kind of becoming aware of that, I just like stopped talking about it completely. So I started putting up these dominoes and then not saying anything. Like planning a trip without really like making it kind of vague. Like, remember we talked about it at some point, didn't we? Just super vague, and then just because I didn't want to overwhelm her.
I mentioned leaving you for 10 days.
Yeah, didn't I? I mean, I could have sworn I said that. And so we kind of had a conversation of like having her be a part of it, and not excluding. It doesn't have to be the center of our life type of thing, but having her be just a part of this vision, because it is, if we are one, we're married, then we don't have to be in the same ministry, but we are a team in some capacity.
Yeah, Allison and I have dealt with that a lot, because she's not your stereotypical pastor's wife or student pastor's wife, right? A lot of churches feel like, is your wife called to youth ministry too, so we can get 2 for 1 on the salary?
Yeah.
And that's totally not fair, right? It's not. And so we've dealt with you support fully my calling, but it doesn't have to be your calling as well.
Yeah.
And so some conversations we had was, how do you bring her, have her be a part of it with it not overwhelming her?
Yeah.
And where she's a part of it. Because I say this too a lot. God gave our wives the ability to be amazing temperature gauges for our family.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, usually wives' discernment is just off the charts.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in that, like, how did you went from overwhelming her with excitement to like, oh, I'll just shut down, which is
not good.
Not a good response.
No.
So then where'd you go from there?
Yeah. So eventually we kind of had a few conversations where we...
Did you cough on purpose? Like, conversations?
No conversation. No. That was totally unintentional.
Okay.
Yeah, we had just a few conversations about like where she was at with the planning of all this stuff, and kind of where my heart is, and kind of reevaluating like where my heart was, because my first ministry is our marriage and is our family, and so if I'm neglecting that to go do something else, like, God's not gonna honor that, and so I had to really kind of pull back and really focus on like, okay, is our marriage good? Is the way that I'm parenting, not that it's perfect, but my heart and kind of my hierarchy of ministry was readjusted again. And so the planning of it became more of like, hey, let's do this together. Are these dates okay? Is this place okay? These are some of the conversations I'm having.
Yeah, pray with me.
Yes.
About these dates. Pray with me. Yeah. Not like, are you okay with it?
Yeah. It was more. Yeah, it was a partnership. It wasn't like, I'm doing this.
I'm not asking you to go, but I'm asking you to pray with me about this place, these people, these dates, and things like that.
Yeah, and it was less. I think before, what I was doing was like, hey, I'm planning this. You need to pray about it and be okay with it. It wasn't. Ooh. It was like more of like, you be the bad guy, but you're gonna be the bad guy to God. Like that type of thing.
As a leader, you're stepping out of the firing range and pushing her into it. Yeah, exactly. Right, totally.
Yeah,
you have to okay this, which is hijacking.
Yes,
her discernment.
Exactly.
So this, I never thought about this. So this is new. This is fresh. This is
sweet
to show you that I'm listening.
Yeah.
Not just. Do you think what was going on was you were still trying to push the first domino down or the second domino
Yeah.
down a little bit with that.
Yeah, because I had already planned. I was like, this is my plan, and so I was pushing instead of setting things up. I was kind of like, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do it this date, and this is how I'm gonna do it, and you need to be okay with that.
Now this goes into total marriage talk.
Yeah.
On accident.
Yeah.
Right. Does that circumvent her like the gifts that God's given her to be used for you guys to be one?
Yeah, I think so. Because it just means I'm steamrolling her under the guise of ministry. Like, this is for Jesus. You must be okay with this. And that's not fair, because it's still steamrolling. It's not a partnership. It's not a... and even though I feel like it's my job to lead our family, that does not mean like bulldozing.
Well, I would let me sound a little bit smarter than that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It does not mean circumventing her gifts.
Yeah.
Like her spiritual gifts.
I agree.
And I think that's interesting. It just came to my mind. I was just thinking about that as you were replaying that.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about. Okay, so now Amber, right? Who you and I've shared like how awesome you've shared how awesome Amber is as a wife.
Yeah.
So then it's funny how we kind of start circumventing, even though you have a great life,
Yes.
wife and marriage and all that stuff. And so then we kind of get on board with that. So then you're starting to cast kind of the net out. Like I'm going to start calling these people or emailing these people.
Yeah.
You start getting some feedback back. And then it starts getting real.
Yeah. Yeah. It started to become really real, really quick. Yeah.
I can't say willy wheel because I just use my W.
Willy.
I'll say willy wheeled.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. My wife is cracking up right now laughing because even last night as we're going to bed, she's like, "Can you say willy wheeled?" And I'm like, "No, I can't say willy wheeled."
That's awesome.
So then, you correct me if I'm wrong. So now what happens is you kind of find an organization.
Yeah.
You have an idea of where to go, an idea of when.
Yes.
That's kind of, now it's the how.
Yeah, the more specifics, I think. And now that, Amber's on board, it's kind of like, okay, what are the specifics? Because you can't live in like a limbo kind of no plan world forever. And so I started talking to the organization that I had kind of been connected with, and they shared that there's a team in a specific country in Central Asia that have been praying and needing help from a physical therapist because there's some orphans there. There's a lot of different physical needs not being met, specifically with kids with disabilities. And so they're like, that'd be a great place to start. And then as far as dates go, it kind of came down to, okay, of my million children, when is not a birthday? So I'm like, okay, let's see what part of the year like doesn't fall on a birthday. And then kind of how long, what does the time, it takes almost 2 days of travel to get to this country. And so, yeah, it was kind of making the specifics, applying for a new passport and new visa and plane tickets and raising support. And it was all this kind of the logistics, which making it real.
Which we have the tendency to have logistics become, instead of hurdles, roadblocks.
Yeah.
And I've found that when we're praying or trying to sort through what God wants to do for us, it's really hard to pray through and figure out what is Satan just trying to get me to stop, or is a sign from God that I need to stop.
Yeah, that's so hard.
Oh
to
my
discern.
gosh! And so I know that, like for you, there was some bounce back and forth of that, even though for the most part you guys were like, go.
Yeah.
So now we've got the logistics and all that hanging over your head. The conversation: how many shots do you need? All that stuff.
Yeah.
But one of those for you was, and still a little bit is kids.
Yeah.
Like you don't work with kids.
I don't.
And so when they're saying the need is
kids. Yeah, that's So physical therapy is like any other medical profession. You can specialize in specific things. And so I kind of am more on the hospital neuro side, and they're needing help with pediatrics or kids. And so kind of talking through that with the team that's over there, well, I had to be honest. I'm like, I don't know what I can bring to the table because I don't treat kids. I don't really know like a lot when it comes to pediatrics. And like, I mean, the general stuff is the same, but if I were to go into like a pediatric clinic in the U.S., I wouldn't know what it would take a long time for me to kind of like build up my my skill set treating kids. And so I was honest with that. And the team there was kind of like, you know more than we know now. Like with your with general therapy knowledge, like you know more. And
you
so
already trumped us.
Yeah, so that was encouraging, and I kept reiterating, and I feel like at this time it was like a twofold thing. God was saying you need to prepare, so like review your pediatric stuff that you've learned, but on the other side, Satan was doing a really good job at making me doubt myself and the whole vision. I mean, he was trying to kind of corrupt the entire thing. Like, well, you're not even going to be used in this setting. You're not even like, you don't even know enough to help anybody. And then, so that's been interesting. It's been interesting to see that kind of play out. That self-doubting / preparing kind of process has been interesting.
And we talked about that pretty heartfelt one day, because it was, you were limiting, like, and I'm not blaming, like, not to be firing arrows at you, but there was an element of limiting how God could use you, versus just saying, okay, I'm going to go.
Yeah, and with like with sin, like I'm not perfect. And so, like, Satan does such a good job at accusing us. And so he was like, how could God use you there if you're doing this here? Or if you, I remember you doing this. Like, so, like, he's like, he can't use you. Like, you're a sinner. And so we talked about that a little bit.
Standing out in the rain.
Yeah, in the rain. Yeah. Really having to pee, I think.
It's because of the coffee. And we're getting old.
Yeah. And so that was... that's something that I've been praying for and praying through, the idea that God uses people. He doesn't use perfection. And so I've been trying to, and there's an element, like you said, like get your stuff together. Like, and for sure, like we're called to a higher standard.
Right.
But we're going to walk in grace day to day to day. We're walking in grace.
His mercies are made new every morning.
Yes. Yeah. And so I've been thinking, like meditating on that idea, that like when I hear that accusation, it's, I need to hold myself to a higher standard, but I'm going to walk in grace, that I know that God can still use me. Yeah,
there's a really fine line there, and I'd love to let's throw this as a topic for a long time from now.
Yeah.
Satan does a really good job of saying you're damaged goods. And when we think we're damaged goods, we question calling, we question ability, we question identity, we question spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
Right? And there's the author of confusion right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how do the future topic, make comments on this if you guys have questions or thoughts on that. I'd love to read long comments and questions from you guys on this, because I think it's a big topic of how do we fight? I don't even know how to wrap my head around it. How do we fight the accuser when he's almost right? Right? Because there's an element of like, man, I am a sinner. And so a lot of what he says, like, you might be right about that, but it's not going to stop me from going. It's not going to stop me from trying. It's not going to stop me from feeling like damaged goods, right? Like I side note real quick was, and I'll talk more about this, was God was hitting me on this about 10 years ago. And we went to a church service, and it was right after I had elbow replacement surgery. And one elbow didn't work as well as the other, right? Like I looked like I was doing the robot when I tried to move it. It just didn't move. And but I was feeling very like damaged goods. God can't use me in ministry and all that stuff. And I don't remember what the song was, but I remember I was standing at the service. It was at Cross Timbers, and when they had the Keller campus at the old Harbor Church. Was it Harbor or Anchor? Anchor. In Keller. And I remember I was just weeping, and God was like, "You're not damaged goods. Look at your arm." And I look over, my left arm is praising God, all damaged, scarred up, replaced, right? And it was like, you just, whatever it is, wherever you're at, like, yes, get your stuff together, but come on now, you know? And so I'd love to talk more about that because I'm super passionate about that. Anyways, so now we're battling Satan. So now we're in the throes of it. But then God did something really dope. The moment you said, "I need money for this."
Oh,
dude, this was a chills moment, right?
Yeah. So I went through kind of this process where I was talking to my brother-in-law who kind of runs a business, and he's like, we could help finance this, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. But then he was also kind of like, you should build support, and not like we don't want to pay for all of it, but it was this idea of you should have a ministry team. And I read a couple things that were this idea that like Paul had people around him praying and supporting him, and Jesus had people around him that were praying and he had like a team. And so I started developing this idea of a team and sent out a letter. And as I was doing this, a really good friend of mine who I had developed a relationship with over 2 years now, he was going through some medical stuff. And so the day that I was going to send out this support letter, I'm like, you know what? He's going through a lot. His family's going through a lot. I'm not gonna send the letter to him. And so I decided, okay, I'm not gonna send it to him. I'll send it to everybody else. Well, that day that I sent the letter out, he texted me and said, "Hey, what's your address? I want to send, my wife and I want to send a check to you for your trip." And I was like, okay. Like, what? Like, I would just decided not to send this letter asking for support to you specifically. Yeah. And that day that I decided not to, he texted me. And so he sent me support, and it was like mind blowing. Like God, another like big God nugget of like affirming, like, you don't need to worry about this stuff. I have got it covered. If I've called you to do this, I'm gonna make sure it works. And I think finances, especially with mission trips, is such a big, like, people see that and they're like, no, I can't go. Like, that, how am I supposed to raise that money?
Yeah, because you're talking $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 to go.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not your trip, but just on mission trips in general.
Oh yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive, and so that can be a huge block. And I feel like such a good advice is to write down all the little nuggets that God is doing, like to affirm. And that way, when doubt starts to set in, or when you're accused of stuff, from the accuser, you can look back at all the things that God has affirmed and been like, no, you've done this. And in prayer, you can be like, God, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. Like, continue to affirm that this is what you've called me to do. And so I've continuously looked back at that stuff. But yeah, financially, huge. I mean, that was incredible because I was not planning on.
So did you open it, or did Amber open it first? Who opened it first?
I opened it first, and I almost started crying. I'm not a huge crier.
That's true.
I don't think I'm fairly stoic. I think I'm a robot. I have emotions.
Stoic. Hiccup. Sorry.
But I just almost broke down because I'm like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. That was my initial thought. Like, I don't. This is not. I'm not worthy of this. And Amber was like, that's not for you.
Crap.
And I'm like, speaking wisdom. Like, that was profound. But it's true. It's not for me. And I texted my friend, and I'm like, I don't deserve this. And he's like, that's not even our money. That's the Lord's money for the Lord's work. And I'm like, okay, but it was for me a little bit, right? Like, but it was such a cool.
Can I buy new headphones out of this?
Yeah, I'm gonna need new pants. Yeah, it was such a cool like truth that it was not mine, that it was the Lord. Like he was like, I gave this from, like, I was blessed. It's from the Lord. I'm giving it back to the Lord, and you just are a vessel to go use it for the Lord.
Oh, it's so intriguing, man.
Yeah.
It's such a, like, when you, and we say that from the stage a lot, like when you give others a soul to every dollar, you know, whatever you say. I'm not mocking it, but like that you just, you do. Yeah. And so, but it is so true that like when your friend or anybody who's given to this venture, this journey that you're going on, like I'm giving, like I'm gonna let a cat out of the bag here, but like I'm giving, or these people are giving because of like the pictures of the x-rays you've gotten. Right. Yeah. Like you've shared with me, and I'm sure Amber and some other people, like the x-rays that they've sent you of kids patients that you'll be seeing, and it's horrific. Yeah. Like it's not even funny. And that's what that's going to help try to provide even just a physical relief to that. And so like again, we say all those what feel contrite like sayings and everything, but it actually is incredibly tangibly true. Yes. So did let's talk honestly. Okay. Not that we haven't, but I'm gonna push again.
More raw.
This is the Clack Box. This is what we do. Whatever. Did all of a sudden a weight get lifted off?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I mean, that was an obstacle. I'm like, how? I started looking at the cost of a visa, the cost of passport, the cost of going, like just the plane ticket, let alone like living there for 10 days. That was a huge, daunting task, and so that was a weight lifted that to kind of free me up mentally. Okay, now I need to start preparing like for all the little things. Like what supplies I'll need and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a huge weight, huge unburdening.
So now we're here.
Yes.
Anything else you want to add to the nuggets that's happened before we go to we're here now?
Yeah. No, I mean there's been so many different little nuggets of just God affirming. I mean specifics. I got really obsessed with this idea of doulos, which is a Greek word for bondservant. And I was reading through that Radical Mentoring group, this book, and read about doulos, and we're bondservants of Christ. I'm like, oh, I love that. And I was obsessed with this idea.
Next tattoo.
Yeah, seriously. No, I'm just kidding, Amber.
That's weird. We're at a tattoo parlor right now. That's so strange.
Yeah, so so I'm talking to that missionary that is in Cyprus, and he's telling me the story about he was in Turkey years ago, and he felt isolated and didn't know there weren't any Christians, and so he prayed for a Christian friend, and he got invited to translate on this ship, and the ship turns out it was a Operation Mobilization, as a mission group. It was their ship. And it was like a missionary ship where they would go and they would do a bunch of cool stuff. The ship's name was doulos. So he tells me that, and I'm like, I've been obsessed with this word for the past week. and like we just happened to be talking off topic what we were talking about, that the ship that like helped him.
Okay, great question. Like I'm totally gonna interrupt you. Okay. So you do get obsessed with things.
Oh, yeah.
Like totally.
I'm in my head a lot.
Yeah. The moment I feel bad about being obsessed or overthinking, I just remind myself of you, and I feel so good. You're my best encourager on, like that. So do you think that you've been looking for God to set things up?
You're going to make me be in my head about that.
Because like we haven't talked about that.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is I think when we're praying through something, or we're God, what do you want me to do? Or we're setting up dominoes, or is this what you want me to do? And we're kind of putting the fleece out through all that stuff. we have a great tendency to see why not.
Yeah.
Right? Like we see negative. Like as humans, we just see negative.
Yeah.
I think it's just what we do. I tend to do it. Like it's very easy to see a black spot on a white thing than to see a white spot on a black thing. It's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. And so, but through this process, I've been intrigued. You've seemed to have the mentality of looking for his affirmation.
Yeah, almost subconsciously. I don't know if I'm actively seeking out, like, I mean, I'm praying like a lot about, God, if this is you, you need to let me know. Like continue to speak truth into this division. And each step I take, God, I need reassurance, because I do spend a lot of time in my head kind of doubting myself and doubting what I'm doing, or not even doubting, just thinking,
I've never sensed a lot of doubt from you.
Yeah, it's mainly just overthinking, so I don't know if I've been.
Just ask the Spirit to make you aware. Yeah. Is that a better way to put it?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, because like the dualist thing, the Dr. Craig apologetics thing, like those aren't. I wasn't looking. I was just talking. Like I wasn't looking for, like in those specific conversations, him to be like, hey, like yes, you should. Like the guy I was talking to, like yeah, you should go.
Right, but I guess what's interesting though is that your take on just these little things has been, oh, he's affirming me, instead of going, I don't see it. Where is it, God? You haven't shown up. You know what I mean? And
so being aware of it. Yeah, for sure. I've been trying to be more a little bit aware.
Yeah, I'm not saying like you don't want to do the whole thing of like I got a flat tire, so I shouldn't go to Central Asia, right? Like
shouldn't go to work.
Yeah, like, Satan gave me a flat tire a year ago, so I shouldn't go to to Central Asia. Like it's not you're not reversing that. Like a Bible appeared, so I gotta be a missionary for my life, right? Yeah. But there has been this this keen awareness from you, which has been really interesting and encouraging to watch, because a lot of times, and you and I have talked about this as scale.
Oh, yeah.
Where do we allow Satan to not minimize what we can do based on scale?
Yeah.
And do we take what God gives us? God could have given you the doulos word and the interaction with that, as in like, you could have gone, huh, that's funny. Or you could have gone like, God, are you speaking to me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's really intriguing that you've done that. And I think journaling those things down is huge.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's an encouragement to go back and look, no, Satan, shut up. This is what God's telling me to go. Yeah. You stop that. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that got a lot easier with Amber being a part of the journey.
Yeah, for sure.
And so now you leave in
less than 2 weeks.
I was going to say 10 days, but we're about 11, 12 days.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And
so you're going to Central Asia. We can't say with who and where.
No, yeah, security-wise. So it is a persecuted country. Security-wise, we can't really... I don't want to give away, like, the specific country or even the group I'm going with or the names of the people I'm meeting.
Yeah, I know I can't pronounce it. We've gone through that.
Yeah. It's... The population there of Christian is 0.7%.
Oh, snap.
So there's, millions of people and like
100 Christians.
Tens of thousands, like a few thousand Christians. So it's a dark, the people I've been talking to, it's a dark place. And there is persecution. It's been ranked on, Voice of the Martyrs or Open Doors, I forget which one. They have like a ranking system.
It was ranked in there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Don't say where, because
definitely ranked. So there's a lot of persecution, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like I could be thrown in prison or kicked out of the country, but there's different levels of persecution, and a lot of it is the local people there that convert. Are ostracized from their villages, kicked out, lose their jobs. They could, potentially go to jail. And so that's one of the reasons I don't, it's better not to say exactly where, in case anyone's listening.
That would be awesome if they were. But, so are you scared?
Honestly, I don't know if it's naivety. Being naive.
Nativity?
I don't know. I don't know if it's just
You're
being
clearly asking the wrong person for word help.
Yeah, I don't know if I honestly am not scared security wise or safety wise. I don't know what that is. More than anything, the fear is that I'm going to be unhelpful, and that goes back to that idea of like it's pediatrics, like, and like Satan talking like he's not going to use you. How can he use you? And so that's the thing I'm most concerned about. I'm going to get there and be like, cool,
Stretch.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I got nothing for you, and so I'm not really too concerned about the safety. I've been praying through, like, I don't want safety to be a distraction. And security or insecurity on my part to be a distraction from what God's doing. Because he is doing some amazing work there. And I don't want me being like, wait, can I go over there? Or like, is this dangerous? Or even me being very white. Being a distraction, right? Like, I don't want to be some novelty because I will look different than most of the people there. I just want to be kind of like the hands and feet. Like, if I were just hands and feet, like moving people, like that's what I want. Or a mouth, to spread the good news. And that's the bottom line. It's not just therapy, like, right? It's the gospel work. One of my favorite verses, it's tattooed on me, is how beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news. And it goes on.
Say that again.
How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news. So it's Isaiah 52:7. And I read it, it's quoted in Romans. Paul's talking about, like, how are they going, in Romans 10, how are they going to hear if no one goes? And how are they going to go if no one sends them? And then he quotes that verse. And I love that because I'm like, how beautiful are the feet of the people who go and just spread the good news. And so I get the opportunity to use skills that I paid a lot of money. I'm in a lot of debt because of all my schooling. I get to use those skills in order to kind of have an in to then be the good news, to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Because if I help someone walk, fantastic, it's life changing. But if I help someone find eternal life, like, that's
Eternity changing.
Yeah, and that's where I'm hoping to kind of land.
So that's where this has been a fun conversation with you because, for the last 14 months, because there has been this awkward struggle too that we've talked about where do I just move my family or can my vocation, my job, run concurrent with a separate calling? Yeah. And I think a lot of times we minimize the separate calling because of the vocation. And how do those things coexist? And so, like, every time we pray as a staff, or I'm praying for, like, I don't know, church staff, or we're just praying together or whatever, I'm always reminded, and I always thank God that this group of people, we get paid to do what you've called everyone to do. Right? Like I don't have to make the choice between vocation and calling. Like, they live together, which goes back to my daughter. She said she wanted to be a pastor, and I think the question was why. Maybe Allison asked her why, and she said, "Well, if I'm supposed to tell people about Jesus, why don't I get paid for it?"
That's really wise. that's like another level of, like, wisdom.
Yeah, and she said it. So that's awesome. We're in trouble already. Just go watch. If you've seen her cheer, then you know we're in trouble. Yes. She'll be the sassiest pastor ever. After me, anyways. So that actually was a part of the conversation early on too. Like,
what does it look like? Yeah.
Like, do they have to live separately?
Yeah.
And God, one of the nuggets for me as watching this journey for you has been that they don't. Yeah. Like, I can be, and so I look at my brother, who's, like, just obsessed with security stuff. He's a police officer. He's private military, all, like, he's just obsessed with that. And he got to go be a private security guard on a mission trip for someone very, like, high level, very important, very on the radar of things. And I'm like, that's God using your vocation to spread the gospel in a completely random, crazy way that you would never have thought, right?
Yeah.
Even in that, there was a little bit of, like, someone spoke a verse in Daniel over him when he was like 10. And it said, you will stand or sit in a room with kings and prophets or something like that. And I was like, that's really weird. He did. Like, as a security on a mission trip for someone, right? Like, so it's just, how do those, and I think a lot of times, and you know, it's really easy for us, just kind of what we feel like the average person, right? Like, you feel like, I think of all of our youth leaders, right? And go, no, that's God. Like, God's using you concurrently with your vocation right now in a mission field. Yeah. And if you feel like it's bigger than that, set up the dominoes and see. Like, it didn't cost you anything to set up dominoes.
No. Just some time.
It didn't cost any skin in the game to set up dominoes to see. Yeah. And okay, now God's pushing. So is Amber, what do you think her state of mind is right now?
Yeah, I think as it approaches, it's becoming more real, for sure. Because before it was like, in like 6 months you're gonna leave, and in like 3 months you're gonna go on this trip. That's awesome.
And then tomorrow it's like, you're leaving me with these babies.
Yeah, I have 4 kids.
I'll see her yelling that, like, in a weird voice like that. She might just glare.
Yeah, she's sold into the vision, and I think a lot of that goes back to months ago partnering. So I think she's more cognizant of the security of stuff.
Right.
I think that's just part of like a mom wife kind of, and which is wise, because she's like, well, you should probably think about this or that, and be careful. Where I'm like, let's just go. Like, why not? She has a little bit more wisdom as far as being safe. So yeah, she's been fantastic, like being on board with this, and that's been really cool. As far as like the long term, I don't know, and that's why I've been calling this a vision trip, because I believe
that's good.
Yeah, like I know that God has led me to this one. I have no idea what the future holds. If it's us packing up and moving and living there, like full time, or if it's maybe going for summers at a time, and I'm doing some teaching, because I know that there's some need for teaching therapy, like for a month at a time, or if that's maybe every couple years we go for a week, or I lead teams, or there's so many options. I have no idea.
Or like, I don't go at all ever again.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally, that could be God being like, good job, I don't come back. Like, I have no idea. And so I'm trying to, one of my prayers is that I'm cognizant of what the Spirit kind of does over there on my heart. Like, this is what I have for you for the future. So I don't know what the future holds, but I'm totally open to kind of what God does. And back to your point with vocation, I've seen quite a bit of that. Listen to a bunch of different missionaries. Kind of the movement right now with international missions is go learn a skill, be good at that, then go to the mission field and use that skill while doing mission work. And so I think before, a lot of the trend was like, go be a missionary, and then you like graduate high school and you go be a missionary, like you just pack up and go, with no real like skill set outside of maybe gospel work. And it's been kind of this cool movement of like, hey, you love computer science? Go do that, and then go move to Iran and, be a computer science guy and get a job and live there. And then through that, you have missions.
Well, that seems to be a little bit more of the theme biblically.
Yeah.
Than what we've made it out to be. Yeah. Right? Like Paul being this amazing tent maker.
Yeah.
Like he had a job. Like and that's what paid for him to travel a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like now these other churches did kind of support him, and you see him thank them for the support and love and all that. But he did that, and he had a vocation. It wasn't like he just like elevated himself and rode around on a horse to these different places, and then Paul's coming in to preach, and here's the autograph line, and
I mean, Jesus was a carpenter for years before going into full-time, or I guess full-time ministry.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Do you think Jesus? Oh, this is totally a separate topic, and this is going to make our podcast longer, but it's really cool. I read something that was the case that Jesus wasn't poor.
Yeah, I've heard that. I haven't read it, but I've heard that like idea.
Yeah, like they like they had money to pay for stuff.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't like begging, like a beggar.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to think that I think Jesus was like rolling with his homies. I don't like don't jump down that
check out that
field.
armoire I made? Sold it for $10,000.
You want to talk about a farmhouse table with shiplap? Look at what Jesus could do. Chip Gaines, I love you. You're the best. But Jesus was better. No, or Clint. Yeah, Clint's the carpenter. I worked in Fixer Upper on episode 2. Yes, so great.
Awesome.
Yeah, which I read an article about them too. About they opened up the silos for the church under the bridge in Waco.
Really?
They're doing construction on 35, and Chips went to the pastor and said, "You guys can meet at the silos, rent free. We'll take care of you, all that stuff."
Dang, that's cool.
Like, yeah, Allison she went to Baylor, so in Waco. So we, I think we went one time. I know her and a couple of roommates used to go to the church under the bridge, which was homeless people basically. And this church would just set up under the bridge where all the homeless people would sleep and have church. 26 years that church has been doing that.
That is awesome.
So we're gonna have you back when you get back because
Awesome.
I'm totally intrigued by what I'm gonna live through you as I sleep in my cozy bed.
Yeah.
Like, and there was even like questions of like culturally, like how do you fit in? How do you not to accidentally disrespect?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I asked the guy that's in Cyprus, I'm like, hey, are there cultural things that I need to be aware of? And he said, yes. And I said, what? And he said,
yep.
There's a lot. like you're probably going to maybe like inadvertently insult somebody on accident. It's just going to be something you have to learn. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't usually like to step on people's toes, but maybe stepping on toes is a cultural norm. And what's crazy is the couple that I'm going to be staying with is not American, and they're not.
But they're not locals.
They're not locals, yeah.
Yeah, they're from a completely another continent.
Yes.
Than what you're from or where you're going.
Yeah, so talking through the idea of like multicultural like layers is going to be fascinating, and maybe a little stressful. Like, is this your local thing, or is that a global thing, or is like your preconceived notion on this idea? Like, where's that coming from? Because, as a whole, like, there's so much background. I don't know. It's going to be
awesome.
Really interesting.
It's going to be great. And I'm really excited for you to share for youth and on here of what's going on. So if you guys have questions for Nathanael or just want to say something encouraging, please comment. And you comment on iTunes, Google Play, on Podbean, whatever your format is to listening, or email to codykleckler@gmail.com. I'll probably get a more official email at some point, but let us know if you have questions for Nathanael for when we have him back. Throw those out there too. That'll be great to have. But thanks for sharing, dude.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I could talk to you forever about this.
Yeah.
Like every Friday.
Yeah.
But then a couple things. You have a blog going.
I haven't launched it.
You haven't launched it yet.
I need to.
Okay.
I'm not real tech savvy, so I'm still working through the logistics. But yes, I'm going to have a blog that will kind of spell out a little bit more detail, like kind of my journey, and then hopefully I'll be journaling over there, so that'll be kind of included.
We can watch that stuff. Do you know what it's going to be, like the web address?
No, nothing. I don't know
okay.
that yet.
Well, this is going live later, in like 2 hours, hopefully, so I won't be able to tell them what it is. But once we find out, like maybe when you get back, we can throw...
Yeah, it might be after they actually launch it, because I need to make sure security-wise what I can actually put in it.
Oh, that's true.
Because I want to make sure that team isn't, that they're, I'm not jeopardizing their work or safety.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's good. So we will be praying for you.
Awesome.
Wife Amber, Isaiah, Titus, Nora Jane,
and
Ella, for you guys. And if you guys want to throw those prayers out there, that would be awesome.
Thank you.
Comment and be encouraging to him, and I'll won't get to him. We probably won't talk. We might talk through email while you're there if you can.
Yeah.
Just a couple of times, just how that's going. But yeah, if you guys have questions, throw them out there, throw comments out there. And it's really cool. We got approved. We're on iTunes now, which
awesome.
I'm super stoked about. I thought that would be really difficult. I've heard it's difficult to get onto iTunes.
Awesome.
We are on Google Play Music as well, so you can check that out, download that there.
Awesome.
And that's pretty much it. Like I said, next week we will be talking. I do have confirmation for talking to a couple people about some suicide issues, which is super prevalent right now.
Definitely.
Had an amazing pre-conversation about identity with someone that I want to talk about, and not because that's what we're reading in Radical Mentoring.
Yeah.
But yeah, and some other things too. I had an awesome pre-marriage counseling session Wednesday night after youth. Yes, I left here at 12. Man. I think I walked in the door at 12:24 after a 2-hour pre-marriage counseling session. So some really cool stuff there. So if you guys have any questions about any of that, throw it out there. Next week will be forgiveness. It may actually go out before next Friday, but at least by next Friday, we'll have a bigger conversation, just myself, about forgiveness. And I know we've had a couple of questions about that. So thanks, Nathanael. Thank you guys for listening. And y'all have a very, very awesome week. Peace.